So that has been
And I
a huge
started
help
seeing
as
that
well.
with driving late at night. I get a call at midnight, I go out, and then I'm out till 3 o'clock, and then I get back, and I'm doing surgery on your animal in the morning, whether it be horse, dog, cat, guinea pig, chinchilla, I don't want to make mistakes on that. So I'm trying to make sure that I can treat your animals the best that I can. And these are changes I've made, and I'm asking the clients to kind of be like, yes, we will haul in, yes, we will meet you at this point, because we know there's not a lot of you left. So that's where some of that comes in. Guidance is another thing. So what I did is I don't want to leave you hanging. I kind of like you as clients. I'd like to keep you. I don't want you not to have help. So on the website and the phones, since I'm not doing the after-hour emergencies anymore, again, if you call before 6, we'll stay late. We don't mind that. I'm just getting woken up at midnight, 3 a.m. is getting harder as the client base grows and more people are coming with more problems. So we say, hey, go on the phones. It say go to the website. On the website, it's going to first tell you a little bit. See, I can't see from this angle where this is, so I'm just going to point.
I don't think I can see either.
What's an emergency? What's not? Emergency versus urgent versus routine. I'll tell you some of the reason I stopped seeing emergencies was I have been interrupted at 11 a.m. and on Thanksgiving dinner because people wanted a price check on a Coggins. And that happens very frequently, and at a certain point I'm like, why am I answering the phone if it's not a true emergency, or the emergency phone? And usually my messages are fairly, if this is an emergency, call this line. If this is a price check during Thanksgiving dinner, please don't call this line. I didn't know I had to specify that. So tries to give some guidance on what to do and other places that can be seeing your sick animals. For small animal, MedVet and Care Center in Cincinnati, you can get to. For horses, Haggard Medical Institute in Lexington. There were more that I recommended before, but they've had to stop their emergency stuff as multi-vet practices that can't keep enough staff because of the same problems we're facing. They have stopped seeing after-hour emergencies as well for horses. So I'm seeing even in Lexington, it's getting tighter and tighter. And actually, when that vet was telling me that he stopped his services, he's like, I had to send them to Haggard. And Haggard was even saying, I've got one vet here and no staff, so I don't know when I'll get to this emergency. So there is a shortage of technicians, of veterinarians, even in the horse capital of the world. So we are having problems just getting enough people to do all this, and a lot of vets are just saying, well, I want to be there at least during the day. If I can't be there at night, at least I can be there during the day. And thankfully, with the staff I have, with the clinic that I have, I was actually in the last year seeing less emergencies, not because there were less emergencies, but because we could get them in quicker and get them dealt with more efficiently here, which got the animals seen quicker, saved you as clients money in general, and then kept me from driving around all night. So yes, there will be those emergencies late at night that are going to, be a big pain, but in general we're getting a lot more seen. I have for cows and goats, Dr. Stanfield in Maysville. He's another single practitioner like I am. He's not always there either, but I don't know anyone else to recommend for cattle in the region, and that's just getting harder and harder. So again, I'm not trying to leave people hanging, but I'm trying to deal with this in a way that can get you information and get us so we can work on your animals and do so more efficiently during the day. And again, why I'm trying to bring them to the clinic is, as you'll see out here soon, we have lights at the clinic. So if you call me at 5:30 and you get here at 6:30 and it's dark, I'm going to be able to see what I'm doing. And I've sutured a lot of things in the dark. That colic surgery I mentioned was in a barn without electricity, so that was fun. but it's much easier for me to do it in the light, and I do a better job. As Brandy said, those stocks have saved me from having broken bones and putting me out of commission as one of those 6 vets that work on a large animal. If you take me out of commission for a few months, then you've got 5 vets in the area. Also, my staff are really good at helping me. As clients, you are great helpers. You have done all sorts of stuff in all sorts of situations to help me help your horse. But my staff, I have to give less commands to and less explanation. If you bring them here, it's 7 minutes from here to my house. It is 7 minutes back versus a 30-minute to an hour drive to multiple farm calls at night. If I'm not as tired, I can do a better job, and I can see more sick things during the day. Also, I have more supplies here. You never know what you're going to need in an emergency, and I can only fit so much on my truck. So if we're here, I can do more work. And I have access to records here. How often do you think we need our tetanus vaccines on horses? Somebody that works here could say something. Or is in vet school.
Every yearly at minimum.
Yeah, yearly, but if you have a wound and are challenging that, how often do you need your tetanus vaccine on a horse?
Every time you get a cut.
Yep, every 6 months. So I'm going to, if it's 7 months, I'm going to vaccinate for tetanus. And that's one of those weird caveats that people don't think of when they're on the farm, they don't have access to the records, and the vet asks, when was your last tetanus vaccine? Oh, they're up to date. I needed a date because I need to count months. Here, I can count months by looking at my records, even if you don't remember when the last vaccine was. So again, access to records helps me figure out what's been going on, especially if we've been seeing your animal for a while. And true emergencies are expensive. It's just going to be that way. But I can limit that expense because I'm going to charge more to drive out than I am going to drive to my clinic. So again, that can help you all out a little bit as well, and I'm fine charging you less if I'm not driving out and to everywhere in the middle of the night. So some things, you know, if you have a down cow, I'm going to come out to that because you're not hauling that in here, and that's going to cost more, which is another reason, to your point earlier, with your cattle, you know how much money you make from those. Or have a general idea, and then you have to kind of look at that with how much you're going to spend to have the vet out. And as everything in this world, the prices seem to be going up, cattle prices somehow tend to stay low. So that, I think, has also hurt a lot of cattle people from calling the vet. They're trying to do everything themselves, and when it's a true emergency, you know, we're sitting here like, well, we're coming out with however many years of experience, potentially, you know, bringing all sorts of medical supplies. So, you know, we're going to charge for that. And at a certain point, is the cow worth that? And most farmers I've seen probably don't make a good financial decision. They want to save their animal if possible. But at a certain point, it does come down to the numbers. And I think that is hitting especially rural areas that there's hobby farming, that they don't have the support of a large farm to work off of and stuff. So why these adaptations? Kind of to answer some of what you were saying before and stuff. I'm trying to bring in more money, not to sound money hungry, but because these small animals, they have emergencies too, and everyone that, when I was seeing large animals, everyone's like, well, will you see my dog? And I'm like, okay. But I need that income to buy the stuff for the horses, the ultrasounds, the x-rays, because in this area, the stuff that we need to take good care of your horses so you don't have to go down to Lexington for higher prices, I need to supplement with the small animal work. So I have to be here to bring that in so I can still provide those services. And like I said, I'm stopping phones after hours to compete with other clinics that were offering, you know, jobs to people, and they're like, oh yeah, no after hours work. And I'm like, well, you might have to stay late do things, but at least you won't be woken up at midnight. And some of it is whatever I can do to hire these students that coming in. They're kind of needy, you know, they don't want to work 80 hours a week and stuff. And again, farm calls for down animals in groups of more than 5. And you know, I want to see the animals that need to be seen, but also I'm like, I can't go out, because we've had this asked a lot of us, I cannot go out and do a nail trim on a dog as a farm call. It just, you know, just doesn't make sense. If you get me 5 dogs. So yeah, but a lot of people are not looking at it as a way to help their neighbor, you know, you can take your one animal to the clinic and it's going to help your neighbor when they need an emergency seen, because it can be seen quicker. And I think a lot of people just are not thinking about that. Some of it is because they don't understand that in the last 13 years things have changed. You know, 13 years ago there were 18 vets that could come out, and now there's not, and they haven't realized that there is a crunch on the number of people that can do the work they want to. So they're like, oh, why won't these people do this for me? Well, I'm trying to make it so that I can help them in their time of need, and you in your time of need, and everything, get as many people seen as possible. So there's not a good answer, but that's the best we've kind of come up with right now.
Well, I'm probably not taking anything to Lexington. And I don't mean that in a bad way. But
No,
we're probably not.
Yeah.
So you working on the neighbor's dog keeps you here. I'm happy.
Yeah, and that's, a lot of people don't see that, and there's a lot of people that they tell me Lexington's not an option. And that's not a problem. Well, that is where we are with that horse at that moment, and there's a lot of things to consider as...
Now, having said that, we have plow horses. So
Yeah.
we don't,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not talking $1 million horse.
Yeah,
I'll go to
well,
Lexington if you give me $1 million horse.
Exactly,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah, no, and that's, I mean, most of us here do not have $1 million horses. You know, if I wasn't a vet, I would, and have friends who can do surgeries down there, and it would help me if I needed help. I don't know that I would go all the time. So it's not wrong to not take your horse down there. It's just, we have to be realistic with what our environment is. On that, to a point, actually I think you both have your horses vaccinated already, but let your friends know we do have a cowboy quick blood draw day where we are doing blood draws for horses for any of the things we might need to test for: Lyme disease, any of the metabolic disease, Cushing's, Coggins test, and we're also doing vaccines at that event there. We do need you to pre-register and stuff, so if you know people that still need to get their vaccines, do that. Brandy will have your discount coupons for you coming and listening to me tonight, so you can, if you need some stuff here in the next few month or two, we can get that on board. And then I think now we can do the hands-on portion. But does anyone have any questions? Because I think, I hope that was kind of what to do in emergencies and why the vets have changed in the last, few years, because there is a big change going on, because there's not many of us left. I have a lot of vet students like Daniel come through. I only know one that has actually went into large animal medicine.
That was part-time, right? Am I thinking this right?
No, he was full-time.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, no, and that's, I've had like roughly 3 to 4 a year since 2016, and that's one. I won't put any pressure on Daniel, but maybe he should go into that. I don't
He
know.
did really good with my mare.
Yeah, he did, yeah. So at a certain point, it's the people have to take the jobs. You can't force someone and stuff, so. But yeah, any thoughts, questions, concerns? I'm open to good ideas because I don't have all the perfect answers, but what I find a lot of times is clients come in and say, you should do this for me, and what I want to hear is what can we do as a community to fix this, rather than just very one-sided and stuff. And not everyone is upset that some people understand it more than others, but it's really hard to understand it when it's your animal that's suffering at the time too. So it's just kind of one of those bad states that we're in. But any other thoughts, questions for vet students that, you know, what are the other vet students doing? What are they thinking when they come out?
So I know a large portion of my class only wants to ever touch a small animal, and you know, that's fine.
Do you find that a large portion of those are people that have only touched small animals in their
Like I
lives?
already said, a lot of that's probably just how they grew up. I know me personally, I want to do mixed animal. I would like to do more large animal, but financially I can't because he can't afford to pay me a salary that supports my student loan debt.
I know I'm
And
stingy.
it's not. I mean, it's the industry as a whole. It's not
Right.
just
I'm just
here. It's
teasing
just
them.
it's rural areas, so it's very hard to justify paying what I paid for my education and then saying, well, I can take a salary I'm cutting my salary in half. Long term, especially. You know.
And that point was brought up at that meeting in Lexington. I talked about, like, where are we pulling from? Who are we bringing in? Is it people who have experience with large animals? Is it not? What are the criteria for getting into vet school? There are some good ideas being thrown out at the state level. There are some bad ideas. And vets as a whole are trying to deal with this, but there's only so much they can do, we can do as a group too. And there were some politicians there and the answers were very political. I'm sure we'll help you sometime. And that was the best we got out of them. But yes,
Aren't they always?
yeah. But people are talking about it in the government level at the bureaucratic, where the people who actually do some of the work are trying to make changes that will help positively affect. But those changes, that's going to take
Takes a while.
years to get in motion. And they need the support of the people that were at the meeting that
They're not gonna get.
weren't, it takes the support of the higher ups too, the elected officials that just were like not giving us great answers. I mean, they were very happy answers, but didn't really answer the question. Yeah. So yeah, it was frustrating, but it at least told me, because I'm isolated from other vets, that most of the vets are on the same page as me, trying to figure out ways of dealing with it in their local communities, but they don't have the power to influence alone the whole state or the whole nation and stuff.
While
like
not
that.
burning you out to the degree that you leave the industry.
Yeah, I know.
Burnout's huge.
Yeah.
And I mean you as
Especially
in
large
each
animals.
vet.
Each
Yeah.
vet, yeah. I know multiple of my classmates, some have left, some have switched to small animal. And I'm not that old, I've only been out for 13 years.
I'm
So
assuming you're gonna retire before you get to 100.
probably at some point, or go out in a blaze of glory, I don't know.
Or stupidity.
Yeah, or stupidity, yeah.
Well, and that's another thing is, if you get kicked by a dog is a little bit different than getting kicked by a horse. That
Mhm.
reps like to say at the conferences, all the equine conferences, all the old vets are walking around like this because it is a lot more taxing. There's big dogs and
I
small
went down to
animals
Moorhead to
are-
do a surgery on a cryptorchid horse, and while we were doing surgery, they walked in and said a vet fairly local to the region had been kicked in the head. I never did hear if he made it out of his coma. So
Things can go bad quick when you got a 1,000-pound animal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
in which, it's fun going out and tearing down your barn and rolling your cow and stuff.
What?
But,
I didn't know
some people are not as good about realizing when to stop and not get yourselves hurt and stuff. Everyone in vet school, I think, likes those stories and wants to be the large animal vet. They just don't actually do it. So, any other thoughts, questions? Otherwise, we have some bandage material out there.
It's chilly, grab a
Yeah, grab your coats. Daniel here is going to help you learn how to put a bandage on horse, equine, just a leg wrap. That's where most of your injuries are that you can bandage up. It's really hard to bandage the whole horse. I have in situations, but it took my whole truck of bandage materials. So just in a bandage, basically a bandage is a bandage, but we'll kind of tell you a few of the do's and don'ts of bandaging and stuff, and I think I'll have a few extra. You can take some bandage supplies home with you and stuff. Take any food that you want, we've got plenty. If not, Daniel might eat it all tomorrow, and we don't want him to do that. So yeah, let me grab my coat, and then Brandy will take you out to the stocks, and we'll meet you right out there.